Have you ever made a terrible money decision and wondered, why did I do that? Maybe you bought something pricey on impulse and later felt the sting of buyer's remorse. Or perhaps you held on to a losing investment far too long, telling yourself it would rebound. Here's a secret. It wasn't just a lack of willpower or luck. Your brain might have been lying to you. In fact, we often assume we're rational about money, but most financial decisions are driven by emotions and subconscious biases. Our brains have mental wiring that can trick us into being poor. Today, we're exposing the biggest psychological traps, the money lies your own mind whispers, and how to beat them. By the end of this video, you'll know how to outsmart your brain and make it work for your wealth, not against it. The brain's dirty tricks, cognitive biases. 101. First, what do we mean by money lies your brain tells you? We're talking about cognitive biases, natural mental shortcuts and tendencies that often lead us astray. These biases evolved to help humans survive or make quick decisions. But in modern finances, they can cause you to make decisions that feel right in the moment and turn out wrong in the long run. Let's break down 4 of the biggest culprits. 1. Loss. Aversion. Your fear of losing is making you lose. What it is? Loss aversion is the brain's built-in fear of loss. Psychologists have found that losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. In other words, we hate losing money way more than we enjoy gaining the same amount. This bias was identified by Nobel-winning research, Kahneman and Tversky, and is extremely common. According to behavioral finance experts, the pain of loss often leads people to make poor choices, like holding on to bad investments, just to avoid the feeling of a loss. How it lies to you. Loss aversion might whisper, "Don't sell that stock now, then it's a real loss. Hang on, it might recover even as it sinks lower." Or it might say, "Investing in stocks is too risky. You could lose money. Better to keep it in cash." The result? You either lock in losses by not moving your money to better opportunities, or you avoid opportunities altogether out of fear. For example, someone might keep a failing business running, pouring in more cash because they can't bear to admit they've lost money on it. Or an investor might refuse to sell a dud stock, missing the chance to put that money into a winner, simply because selling would mean accepting a loss. The lie is that by not selling or not taking a risk, you're avoiding loss. But in reality, you might be incurring a bigger loss, the lost opportunity for growth. How to overcome it? Realize that small losses are a part of any financial journey, and that every successful investor or business person has losses. The key is to manage them, not run from them. One trick is to set predefined rules. For instance, decide if an investment drops 15%, I'll cut my losses and move on. This takes emotional decision-making off the table. Another approach is to reframe. Instead of focusing on the money you're losing, think about the potential gains you can move toward once you free up that money. If fear of loss is paralyzing you, start with small stakes. Invest a modest amount you can tolerate losing, to prove to your brain that the world doesn't end if a decision doesn't pan out. Over time, you'll desensitize that loss fear. 2. Sunk cost fallacy, throwing good money after bad. What it is. The sunk cost fallacy is a sneaky bias that convinces you to continue with something because you've already invested so much in it, whether money, time, or effort, even when continuing is no longer the best choice. Your brain hates the idea of wasting what you've put in, so it tells you to not give up now. As a result, you become emotionally attached to your past investment and make irrational decisions. A classic definition. It's protecting or holding on to a decision because you've already made a significant investment. which leads to an emotional commitment to a bad investment. How it lies to you. Sunk cost. Fallacy says, you've come this far. You can't quit. Imagine you start a business and invest $50,000, but it's clearly failing. Instead of reevaluating objectively, you keep pouring in money because, hey, you already spent 50,000. If you quit now, that money is wasted. Or think about a simpler example. You bought an expensive gym membership, but you hate going. Your rational mind might realize you'd be better off canceling and saving money, but the sunk cost lies in your head. I paid for it, so I have to keep going, even if I never go. The tragic effect is that you waste even more resources, more money, more time, trying not to waste what's already gone. It's like doubling down on a bad bet in a casino to try to win back what you lost, usually leading to an even bigger loss. How to overcome it. Flip the script in your mind. Ask yourself, if I hadn't already invested X, would I invest it now, knowing what I know? If the answer is no, that's a red flag that you're only continuing out of a sunk cost bias. Remind yourself that the past is gone, that money or time is spent, whether you continue or not. What matters is what will yield the best outcome going forward. Sometimes cutting your losses is the smartest thing you can do. It might help to get an outside perspective. Ask a friend or mentor who isn't attached to the situation. They'll often more clearly say, hey, it's time to walk away. Practice making small calls on sunk costs. If you're halfway through a mediocre book, give yourself permission to stop reading it instead of finishing out of guilt. Little habits of not honoring sunk costs can strengthen your ability to do so on bigger issues. 3. Hyperbolic discounting, now versus later, the instant gratification trap. What it is. Hyperbolic discounting sounds fancy, but it's basically our tendency to prefer a smaller reward now over a larger reward later. It's the immediate gratification gremlin in our brains. Behavioral scientists describe it as a bias, where the present is given far more weight than the future. Experiments show that many people would rather have a smaller amount of money right now than a much larger amount later. Our brains simply overvalue the immediate reward and undervalue the future one. How it lies to you. This bias tells you you want it now, you need it now, and downplays the value of future benefits. It's the voice that says, go ahead and buy that new phone on credit. You can pay it off later, or why save this extra $200? Treat yourself. You've had a tough week. Meanwhile, the future you, the one who wanted to retire comfortably or buy a house, gets shortchanged. Hyperbolic discounting is why saving for retirement or sticking to a budget is so hard. Our brains perceive the future gains, like a big nest egg decades from now, as abstract and less motivating, while the present pleasure of a shopping spree or a fancy dinner is tangible and emotionally rewarding right now. Essentially, your brain lies by saying that future rewards aren't that important, or it assumes, I'll handle it later. For instance, assuming you'll save more in the future, which often doesn't happen. Example, let's say you get a $1,000 bonus. You know logically that investing that $1,000 could grow to much more over the years, but your car is a bit old, and that new shiny car model is calling your name right now. If you give in, that's hyperbolic discounting at work, choosing the immediate pleasure of a new car, plus likely a new car loan, over the delayed benefit of financial growth. Or consider credit cards. They let you satisfy your desire instantly, while pushing the payment off to later, feeding right into this bias. How to overcome it. The key is to make the future feel more real and the present temptation less impulsive. One practical trick is automation. For example, automatically divert a chunk of your paycheck to a savings or investment account before you even see it. This way, your present self doesn't even consider that money spendable, and your future self is taken care of. Another tip, create friction for impulsive spending. If you tend to shop online at night, delete your saved credit card info, so you have to manually enter it each time, giving you time to reconsider, or use a 24-hour rule for purchases, as mentioned before. Also, vividly imagine your future goals. Picture your debt-free life, or that dream home, or being able to help your kids through college. The more concrete and emotional you make your future rewards, the more weight your brain will give them. Some people even name their savings accounts with goals, Hawaii vacation fund, or future home down payment, so that putting money there feels rewarding. The idea is to train your brain to see the future as just as important as the present you. 4. Lifestyle inflation. The I deserve it. Trap. What it is. Lifestyle inflation, also known as lifestyle creep, isn't a single moment of decision like the other biases. It's a gradual trap we fall into over time. It refers to increasing your spending as your income rises, essentially canceling out the benefit of earning more. When you get a raise or a better paying job, you feel like you can afford more, so you upgrade your lifestyle, a nicer apartment, dining out more often, better gadgets, etc. Before you know it, that extra income is completely absorbed by new expenses, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck. It's our brain telling us, hey, we have more money now. We deserve nicer things, which is true to an extent, but it can sabotage long-term wealth. How it lies to you. Lifestyle inflation disguises wants as needs. Your brain normalizes luxuries very quickly. For instance, you might manage just fine driving an older car in college, but a few years into a decent paying job, you feel like a second-hand car is beneath you. I work hard. I should drive a new car. Or you move from a small apartment to a bigger one as soon as you can afford a bit more rent. Each individual decision feels justified. Of course, I should have a nice coffee machine. I can afford it now. But collectively, they consume every bit of your new income. The lie here is that having more money means you can spend more freely. In reality, if you spend all the extra, you're no better off than before the raise. Human psychology is tricky. We tend to always think we'll save later, but when later comes with more income, our desires also increase. Social pressure adds fuel. You see peers upgrading their lifestyle and feel you should too. Real life example. Many lottery winners or athletes who get sudden huge incomes end up broke a few years down the line. Why? They rapidly inflate their lifestyle. Mansions, cars, expensive tastes. And, without financial discipline, they burn through even massive fortunes. On a smaller scale, imagine you get a 10% raise. Instead of banking that extra money, you celebrate by getting a better smartphone and dining out twice as often. Soon your monthly budget is 10% higher. You feel richer because you have nicer things, but your savings aren't growing at all. How to overcome it? The moment you get a raise or any income boost, make a plan before the money hits your account. Decide a percentage of that raise, say 50% of it, that will go straight into investments or savings. This way, you still reward yourself with some extra spending, but you also bank a significant portion. Essentially, treat your future self as one of the billers of your new income. Another strategy is to actively practice gratitude and contentment with what you have. This sounds fluffy, but it's psychologically powerful. If you upgrade your lifestyle, do it intentionally for things that truly increase your happiness or convenience, not just because you can. Also, keep your long-term goals front and center. If you're eyeing a bigger house down payment or financial independence, remind yourself that every dollar not inflated away brings you closer to those goals. Surround yourself with people or media that emphasize values over consumerism. For example, follow personal finance communities. That will help counteract the cultural push to keep up with the Joneses. Master your mind to master your money. Your brain is a powerful machine, but as we've seen, it has some quirky wiring when it comes to money. It will happily lie to you, telling you to avoid all losses, to keep sinking money into something, because you can't quit, to grab that treat today and forget tomorrow, or to live it up every time your paycheck grows. But the good news is you can retrain those habits. By slowing down your decisions, setting up automatic good habits like paying yourself first, and focusing on long-term goals, you can short-circuit those biases over time. These simple practices turn your brain from a saboteur into a wealth-building ally. Remember, awareness is the first step. Next time you catch yourself rationalizing a bad financial move, call out the bias. Replace it with a smarter choice using the techniques we discussed. Bit by bit, you'll rewire your habits. Instead of fearing loss, you'll accept it and move on. Instead of clinging to past decisions, you'll make the best choice for the future. Instead of indulging every impulse now, you'll balance present enjoyment with future well-being. And instead of inflating your lifestyle endlessly, you'll consciously design a life that grows your wealth and happiness in tandem. You'll stop being your own worst enemy and start becoming your own financial coach. The payoff isn't just more money in your bank account, it's peace of mind. It's confidence in your decisions. It's the pride of knowing you're in control of your finances, not at the mercy of hidden biases. If this video opened your eyes to any money lies your brain has been telling you, hit that like button. Share in the comments which bias you struggle with the most. Trust me, we've all been there, and you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe to Boom Blaster Stoic for more insights on mastering the game of life and money with psychology. And share this video with that friend who always falls for the latest get-rich-quick scheme or retail therapy splurges. Together, let's help each other get smarter. Remember, when you master your mind, you master your money. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.